evidence cropped up about a decade ago that our only person that investigates judges in the state is actually falsifying investigations so that judges can remain on the bench. We gave that evidence to the Department of Law and the legislators and whatnot, and it all got basically covered up. And one of the worst things that happened is we ended up getting a grand jury investigation into what's going on. They validated what was going on. They wrote a report about what they found. The judges went in and sealed the report. The grand jury indicted a former judge, and then other judges dismissed the indictment because there weren't enough grand jurors. Apparently they impaneled only 12 grand jurors, even though their own rules say they're supposed to impanel 18, and then one of the grand jurors went missing, which reduced the number of grand jurors to below the minimum of 11.
And the grand juror that went missing, they never found him?
They never found, and they haven't looked for him. And so it's like the whole system's rigged to make sure that there never is an investigation into, whether or not our judge investigator, when you file a complaint, is falsifying the investigations to keep the judges on the bench. And so we found in California, or not California, New York City, when they had systemic corruption kind of like this that was being covered up by the oversight agencies, the mayor of New York City impaneled a independent commission to investigate, and they got to the bottom of it. So we're here to ask the governor to impanel an independent commission to look into what's going on, because all the oversight agencies seem to be unwilling to do so.
What are the oversight agencies that overlooked that?
It would be the Department of Law is the main one, and the Commission on Judicial Conduct, the Alaska Judicial Council, the Alaska Ombudsman, the legislature is supposed to, if there's corruption, allegations of corruption, they're supposed to look into it. And then, the Alaska State Troopers, we filed criminal complaints with the troopers. We've, the city police, whatnot. So basically all the official agencies refuse to do anything. And in fact, some of them, like the Department of Law, John Skidmore, the Deputy Attorney General, he has falsified testimony to legislators that kind of looked into it. And so it's like all these agencies are benefiting from the corruption in the judicial system, and so they don't want to, it appears, don't want to uncover it. In New York City, when they finally did get to the bottom, it was said that all the oversight agencies were more afraid of the scandal than of just not investigating and let the corruption continue. And the reason they gave is they said that if the truth came out, the people would lose confidence in New York City. It was the police department. Here, we believe that they're afraid of looking into it because people would lose confidence in the judicial system. So, the lady that's the only person that investigates our judges has been there for 36 years. So,
what's her name?
Marla Greenstein.
So she's an investigator for the judge, and she's been there for 36 years?
Yes, and she's the only one. Every judge complaint goes to her for the last 36 years. And so, we think it's about time that she had that there's some like accounting or an audit of what she's been doing. And the truth is that we did have an audit. We had a grand jury investigate. When they subpoenaed her, she refused to testify. So that tells you. So, and then one of the judges that she investigated, they indicted. So I think there's plenty of smoke to assume that there's maybe a little bit of fire. So, and then, it goes on and on and on. The grand jury wrote a recommendation, a report to the public. Our Constitution says the power of grand juries to make recommendations shall never be suspended, and they won't allow us to see it. So, anyway, sure. And this is a letter that was written actually to the Attorney General. but it explains kind of what's going on. So, anyway, you know, and we believe that what's going on deserves the governor to kind of meet with us. The last time we asked for a meeting, he actually had us meet with the Department of Law, with the state attorneys, a deputy attorney general by the name of Corey Mills. When we had the meeting, she refused to discuss the evidence of corruption within the Department of Law and the judges. You know, and that doesn't give you much faith in the system when the head of the Department of Law refuses to talk about evidence of corruption. At one point, she even said we don't have authority to look into wrongdoing by judges and whatnot. Well, if you're the Department of Law and that's your job, we think you should be doing your job. So, anyway,
where's she at?
Yeah.
She's in Juneau, right?
Yeah, she actually came up here to have the meeting, but I think she's based in Juneau. Yes. So,
how many times do you guys try to get hold of the governor?
Do you have time?
Probably. There's been an email string back and forth over the course of about 4 months, and I would say there's dozens, if not scores, of emails back and forth. And one of our concerns is that we didn't know if the governor actually knew that we're trying to meet with him, because we always just talked to his staff and stuff. And the governor's office, they gave a cryptic response. It said, you know, the governor is aware that you met with the Department of Law, and the Department of Law is keeping us informed. Well, we had asked, does the governor personally know that we asked for a meeting with him, and does he personally know that the state attorneys refused to discuss the evidence? And so it's, you know, we get the feeling maybe that the governor doesn't really know what's going on, and that the attorneys are just telling him that, you know, we're just a bunch of cranks and conspiracy theorists, and we don't have any evidence to back up what's going on, and it would be a waste of his time. But the reality is that the attorneys are kind of implicated in what's going on, and so they have an interest in hiding from the governor what is going on. And again, you know, we're trying to kind of break through that, and I don't know how to do that. But people like you that are recording this and maybe passing it on will kind of spread the word. But
I'm live.
Yeah. Well, it's a incredible situation that it's possible our only judge investigator is covering up for judges. I mean, the people deserve to know whether that's true or not. And we had a grand jury investigation, and they wrote a report on whether it's happening or not, except the judges sealed the report.
And won't let us see it.
And won't let us see it, yes. And those reports are supposed to be for the public, because the grand jury is the public's arm to investigate wrongdoing by the government. So I don't know.
Do you think this is also coming from the state's attorney?
I believe it. It may be. You know, we wrote a letter. You know, this is the letter I wrote to him. I would like to think that he would do the right thing. I believe it had to be his involvement that got the grand jury investigating that did investigate. So I would have thought that he should try to help, but so far we haven't, you know, got any help from him. So
You haven't heard anything from him?
I haven't heard a word from anybody. The governor's office, we had exchanges where they had us meet with the Deputy Attorney General, Corey Mills, and then after they refused to talk about the evidence, we went back to the governor's office and said, hey, now we need a meeting with the governor because the people he had us meet with refused to talk about the issues. And that in and of itself, you know, makes us feel worried. And then the governor's office just kind of, you know, quit responding also. And we've been pretty, very respectful, I think. And just so that you know, the meeting that we had with the Deputy Attorney General, it was attended by 5 people. 2 of those were borough mayors that were concerned about what's going on. I was involved. Don Fritz, who's on the Funny River Community Board Association, was there. And Rick Davidge, who hosts the Alaska Roundtable. That was the 5 people. And it's online, the whole meeting. And anytime it would come up with evidence like against Marla Greenstein or John Skidmore, the other Deputy Attorney General Corey Mills would just say, we're not going to talk about that. And if you're the Department of Law and you're telling citizens you're not willing to talk about evidence of crime just because it's a judge or a Deputy Attorney General, something's wrong. It then means that citizens have one set of laws and high-level officials have a different one.
And that's the big problem right there.
Well, that's what's going on.
Yeah, that's the big problem.
If it was any of us that there was evidence of crime, they would be investigating
We'd be
and
in
talking
jail.
about it.
Yeah, we'd be in jail.
Yeah. And so,
I think it also goes to the prosecutor.
Yeah.
They're the ones also that are allowing corruption. They're not playing live. You get in front of a grand jury and they lie to the grand jury, and the grand jury doesn't know what's the truth or not, but yet they're supposed to rule on an indictment or something. But when they're getting nothing but false.
yeah. And that is a problem, but then what we found out about grand juries is they're supposed to investigate on their own, not rely on an investigation when there's allegations of corruption by government officials who won't investigate themselves. And that's where we really gained some traction. And we got the report, and the one judge got indicted, and and all of a sudden people realized there may be corruption, but then unbelievably the system had enough horsepower to still suppress what had happened and to disallow it. So
How long have you been fighting
anyway,
this? When did it start for you?
about 20 years ago, there's one of our so at some point it may be that we all go into this building, just sit down and don't leave until the governor listens to us and the attorney general comes in, and they maybe appoint another grand jury or find the grand juror that's going on, and they the governor appoints an independent commission.
Are you afraid, sir, that they're going to tase you for being on the sidewalk, exercising your First Amendment right to peacefully protest? Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm not afraid of that. Are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, I've been through all that. I've learned that
You didn't do anything wrong in the courtroom, and they tased you in the courtroom.
yeah, and that's I guess kind of like the civil rights movement. If there's something wrong, you need to be able to do the right thing and not be dissuaded by people,
Well, those
trying
guys
to convince you otherwise.
Those
So,
guys had guns and badges that did that to you, and you didn't do
Well-
anything wrong.
Those are
Yeah.
deadly weapons.
Well,
Those are deadly weapons.
This country was built by people like us that weren't afraid of authority that went off the rails. All this is building public awareness, and we're getting more and more traction on what's going on. And thank you guys, videotaping and getting this out to more people. And like we discussed earlier, the people that are showing up here, this ain't the only people that realize what's going on. We've been sending out posts to Kipnuk and Napakiak and Utqiagvik and Sitka. And there's people all over the state on Facebook talking about what we're doing here today, right now. And they don't have the money to fly here, $1,000 to, well, it's whatever.
The reason I asked you that question about being tased again, because this gentleman right here got arrested and thrown in jail for something he didn't do in Palmer. He was up there documenting what he was allowed to do in the courtroom, and he was maliciously prosecuted by some corrupt district attorney. Do you remember her name?
Jordan.
Brandon. What a great guy he is. You could just see him up there performing, and he held up the Constitution, and he witnessed the police officer, and
What's his last name again?
Jose Musa.
Jose
Give
Musa.
him that law.
M-U-S-A.
I'll give you a business card. You can.
Do you have?
I do. I'll get my
So-
work done on it. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I'll be here.
There's some pretty corrupt attorneys in this town. You know, like Christine Victoria Williams, owner of Outlook Law, tried to get me prosecuted 3 times for stalking because I said that I would protest her and her place of business. So she went after me in court 3 times, and I got attorney's fees 3 different times from this woman, having to fight. It cost me $60,000 to fight off a lawsuit 3 different times that I didn't do. I wasn't stalking anybody. I just merely said that I should protest you in your place of business. And then when it finally came down to it, and I did protest her, she called the police on me up to 11 times trying to get me arrested for something I didn't do.
This is you.
Everything he's talking about is on my channel. I
Yeah, if
publish
you go to
everything. I don't hold it back.
News Now
all
Alaska.
all the judges and all the stuff, the whole year thing is on my channel. But it's exactly what David's dealing with. It's corruption in the courthouse. Corruption, and it's not just the courthouse. It's the entire judicial system.
Oh, it is.
All the way up to the governor. And this, what's going on right here today, proves that it's all the way up to the governor. He's made multiple attempts to reach out to the governor, and the governor has refused to respond
Well,
to
that's
him.
where I think what's the DOJ in Pambondi or something, in the FBI.
Well,
why
thank
not
God
go
we
to
got some
them?
new sheriffs in town, because those
Exactly.
people, I don't believe, are as corrupt as the previous administration,
Right.
which was.
But that's what I'm saying. I think you need to go outside of Alaska.
I mean, you talk about the biggest joke
It's gotta
about
get
the
federal.
country
Right.
of
It's gotta
life
go federal. Like,
was
we can't-
Biden and
we can't
his
keep
In
corrupt
fact, I'm
allowing-
getting ready to write.
We can't keep allowing our judicial system to rule over us.
Right.
We're not
Well,
supposed to be
even
afraid. We're not
doing
supposed to be
the-
afraid of the government. The government's supposed to be afraid of us.
Even doing the corruption that they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
And you go like in
rules
Congress.
every time,
Yeah.
hoping nobody will notice.
yeah. And it's gone on for so long that they've gotten away with it. And
Yes.
it's a regular everyday thing.
Yes.
And regular citizens don't realize what's been going on for decades.
Yes. In fact,
to
that
deal with the
5.1 rule I was telling you
Just
about
trying to
earlier,
keep up.
yeah, we had
Yeah.
a judge literally tell us that I've seen 2 cases in 20 years. That's because they get the grand jury in there before the 5.1 rule, and they ruled it in an indictment, and so now these people are in the system, and that's how they. I mean, there's so many people that are locked up that are innocent, but they take a plea deal because their hands are tied.
Like she was, she was talking about the preliminary hearing. That's about the due process that they changed. Actually,
I don't know if they changed. Well,
but the due process they actually.
I know it was
changed
you,
Is
right?
there a bunch of cops
actually-
now?
There's 10 around the corner over there, and there's a bunch sitting in that parking
There
lot.
now
There's a
says
bunch sitting in that parking lot, and then around the corner right here, there's at least 10 of them.
Really?
Yeah.
they put in there that he could argue,
Right.
and now he can argue with nothing.
5 days out, they'll cancel it again.
This is a really big problem up here, guys. This is pretty serious.
Well, if they don't,
It's starting to happen. It's starting to.
What's their reason for?
they said that they, what the heck, they was kind of couched sort of nicely, like they oversold and didn't realize there would be so much interest in getting booths. The problem is like Todd said, we bought ours like out so far out
Yeah,
in advance.
yeah.
that
But it
it
couldn't
should
have
be
been
first.
sold out. It couldn't have
Yeah,
been sold out.
exactly. First come, first served. You would think if there was people that wanted a booth later on, that they would tell the other people there were no booths left. You know, there was the Alaska Sustainable Energy Conference, but there was Trump's cabinet was there. The governor spoke there at least once, if not more. And so we were going to have a booth with, all these signs that just say we need a meeting with the governor, and there's, corruption. We have evidence of corruption in the Department of Law. We need an independent commission to look into it. And it just got you know, stomped on. But
David, I have a question for you. Did they ever find that other grand jury that came up missing?
no, never have.
They never
looked
have
for
found-
him. Nope, never have found him.
So as far as we know, we don't know what ever happened.
Correct.
Was there foul play at play? Is that possible?
People have said that, but I don't know. It seems suspicious that their rules, their own rules, the court rules mandate they're supposed to impanel 18 grand jurors,
Right.
not counting alternates, and on virtually every grand juror in the state they impanel 6 alternates for a total of 24. Because a grand jury, according to our Constitution, must have at least 12 members present.
Right.
So if they go to 11, they can't do anything. They impanel this grand jury with 12, and then right at the critical moment when they indict a judge and issue a report, it goes to 11 and they can't find the missing one. And they don't even look for them. I mean, doesn't that seem a little odd?
That seems extremely odd. I just served 4 months on a grand jury, and
How many grand jurors were on your grand jury?
18 every time. And if there was critical cases that the DA wanted to bring in front of us, they wouldn't do it unless there was 18. So they let the alternates be in there.
Okay.
Okay. And the alternates also voted.
Yep.
So which
To make
confused
sure
me.
that
Because
if
they
one grand
stacked-
juror disappeared, they still had more than 12, right? To make sure.
Right, and so
Or
what they
12,
did,
at
it
least
seemed to
12.
me like, was they were stacking the grand jurors against the person they were trying to get indicted, because you only needed 12, but they stacked the room with 18.
Yeah.
And then I thought the alternates were there in case somebody didn't show up. I thought that was the whole idea of an
Yeah.
alternate.
Well, that was my impression.
But the alternates were there every day, and they also voted. So I'm still really
that
confused
don't-
about.
yeah,
it
I-
seems like a really strange
Yeah.
setup to me, and it's all designed about getting indictments.
Yeah. Well, and then when a grand jury investigates corruption in their own system, they only impanel 12 and no alternates.
Right. Yeah.
That just seems kind of a bit odd.
How far do you think the corruption goes? How far up?
Well,
I do.
We're gonna head out.
Yeah, it's great.
Not yet.
have you ever read the letter I sent you?
I'm the one that appealed, so I wanted to let you know, David, that we are going to be rolling on the website shortly. I think you'd probably be happy on some of the issues that we take care of. Unhappy with some of the stuff that I don't have control over quite yet. And it's phase 1. So we are taking some of the ideas that you brought to my office and that might be phase 2, like developing that committee that's not the government. Because I think that's a good idea. We still have some problems with hiccups we're going to work through. We're going to roll out the website once that happens. We're going to be doing some community events in the Kenai that's going to talk about this discussion.
Have you read my brief to the Supreme Court on my appeal to on 1993?
But I do appreciate you bringing this to your attention. I do think there's some things that we can do better. And one of the things I'd like to point out is I don't appreciate being the gatekeeper on this. I don't think it's correct that I'm the gatekeeper on this. So I'm trying to put myself out of business on this. But we do have to set up.
Can you tell me what is your conversation with Mr. Winfrey with that letter that was generated accepting or liking what you said or what you guys talked about, Mr. Winfrey?
I'm not
The
sure
Supreme
which.
Court? Well, there's a
I'm not
letter
sure
that
which-
he generated and sent to you saying that you had a conversation with him about 1993 prior to the order being made, and they set up a committee of 4 people, 2 from your office, 2 from the Supreme Court. What did he say to you, and that generated that letter?
I can tell you that we came up with a list of things that we thought we could do as a state, presented that to the courts. The courts went a different way.
Did he tell you that you were going to be the gatekeeper?
I did not know that until the rule came out.
That's the way the
I don't
rules.
think I should be the gatekeeper.
Are you a Democrat, sir?
And I apologize.
Are you
I
a
do-
Democrat,
to
sir?
just
Are
say
you a
this.
Republican?
Flat out, You guys are horrible at keeping the public informed of what's going on.
And that's why we're gonna roll that website out so people they know exactly what the process is. And again, it's phase one of the process. We're still working on trying to outsource that decision making. And we'll discuss some of those things when we come down and do the community visits and Kenai. We're gonna start with Kenai, and they'll go through that.
And one thing I would demand is that the same 5 folks that met with Corey Mills and Ann Helzer get to meet with the governor and yourself and physically talk about the evidence of corruption that's in the Department of Law. John Skidmore, there's direct evidence that he's dirty to the bone.
That's where you and I are going to be agreeing.
And Marla Greenstein. Marla Greenstein, and I presented a lot of the evidence to the grand jury who wrote a report and recommendation that has been sealed. And that is wrong. I don't care what anybody says. That's wrong. That report was to us, the public.
I appreciate that. And we're going to agree to disagree about corruption within the department, because if there was, I would definitely want to do something about that. That's not going to be acceptable at any level within our department. But I do agree that we need to do some additional things and some things differently than we're doing with investigative grand juries, because I do believe that right is currently constrained, unfortunately, and it's not according to the Constitution. So those are things we can work on and we can have those discussions, but unfortunately I do have meetings the rest of the day.
Well, I appreciate you taking what time you have.
I saw you here and I thought I would come in.
Sir, I think a lot of the viewers would like to know, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican?
Sir, I'm a Republican. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Treg Taylor.
Well, that's a good sign, ladies and gentlemen. That gentleman is a Republican.
So, can I get your information, please? Can you write it down for me? So, what people have to know is that when stuff comes into my office, it doesn't all come to my desk, right? And so
I know,
sometimes
you're legal.
yeah, so you know
So
how
I
that
see a
works.
lot of stuff here.
Yeah, so we have to obviously have people look at things, because I can't possibly address everything that comes in the Department of Law that has my name on it. If you know that when you look at the court filings, there's my name and then there's the person that actually filed it.
Well, you might know because I'm the first female to score a Russian touchdown in a varsity football game. And I was turned into a criminal here after fleeing for my life from my ex in the
Please do write your contact information.
Hey,
I have a pen right here. I have a photo of it.
This is my stuff. I've been writing all about this. I'm actually rewriting the legislation myself.
So I can honestly say this is the first I've heard of this, and I'll reach out to you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I shake your hand?
I honestly have meetings I've got to run to, gentlemen.
And what was your name
again?
You're doing a great job, and I think the viewers are going to appreciate you and your hard work.
I appreciate it. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Treg, is COVID guidance treason?
Thank you for taking the time.
I appreciate it. I
Thank
wanted
you
to
for
make
taking
sure I
the time.
addressed it.
You know,
Is COVID guidance treason, Treg? You gonna prosecute treason, bud?
I'm not aware of a felony problem. I was arrested for filming in public buildings. I was just wondering, other people have been too. I just wondered if you were aware of it. No.
yeah, there's some serious issues with that in the courthouse and the courtroom.
Yeah.
I was maliciously prosecuted for stalking, which I never stalked anybody, by an attorney in this town. Her name is Christine Victoria Williams. She tried to have me thrown in prison 3 different times. I was able to get attorney's fees for her corruptness, and it was all because I threatened to protest her and tell people about her place of business and her conduct. And so she tried to get me maliciously prosecuted 3 different times. So I think that's, I mean, there's some corrupt attorneys in this town, and I think it's worth addressing.
Well, I think within any type of profession, you're going to have some corruption, and you know, it's up to the Alaska Bar Association to deal with that corruption.
They just brush it under the
And
rug.
that's and I've been told that before. So anyway, I appreciate you, gentlemen. I do have to run to a meeting, so I apologize for everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of DAs that are prosecuting us for filming in public. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I lost your card. My card.
I'll go for it. Appreciate it.
I lost it before I was able to email you because I feel like retaliation.
Well, he acted like he cared because he was on these cameras were in his face.
We'll find out. Don't care. Camera.
Hey,
That's me. Kind of just said.
how do I do a screenshot? There. Oh,
That's your photo button.
okay.
I've seen that. So that's why the cops are all over the place because he was here.
Who is that?
That's the
Winter, if you notice, I'm a lot better organized.
who was he? The Attorney General.
He's the Attorney General
The Attorney General
for Anchorage?
for Alaska.
For Alaska.
He's from Juneau.
Yeah, I don't think he cares.
Craig Taylor.
Yeah, I don't think he
No,
cares.
I think he just got put into this position by Donald Trump.
No, that's a different guy. He's been here for a long time. Oh yeah.
He knows what's going on,
They
probably.
just sitting in their car.
No, they're around the corner. There's like 10 of them, and then there's like 8 or 9 or more in here.
They're out of their
And then
vehicles.
there's got to be at least 10 inside.
They're not in their vehicles.
No, they're just hanging out.
Well, now we
Yeah.
need to start.
Yeah, when I came up, I saw him walk
We need
over
a
there.
car. Yeah, we need to start finding the people.
Thanks for joining me, guys.
Well, that's nice. But I have never really looked at. You know, now I think this has got.